All right, stick with me here. You and I are diving into one of the most brilliant CEO power moves ever made. I barely even blinked. My pen stopped for just 1 second. She proudly announced she had totally fallen for another guy. Absolute silence filled the room. I am the young boss of the Ren Group. She is the famous Zhao family heiress. Tying the knot between our huge families was basically guaranteed in our elite world. But she picked the exact moment I finished signing papers to confess her new romance. I simply asked who. Yu Yeguang. I finished my signature and snapped the folder shut before she could even continue. Fine, our engagement is officially off. You can go explain this mess to our parents. Her face completely dropped. Ren Yang, do you honestly not care? I just stared right back. You already made your choice. She glared at me, totally shaking. I am getting officially married today. I simply replied, Congratulations. She turned toward the exit, glancing back nervously. You are not going to strike back, right? I just laughed really softly. Businessmen never hold grudges. I am merely taking my funding back. 3 days later, I gathered my entire board of directors. We completely pulled every single cent from our 3 major Zhao family business projects. Suddenly, banks froze their loans. She finally called me in a total panic. Are you crazy? It is just standard business. She stayed completely quiet for a while. What exactly are you trying to achieve? I calmly looked out the huge glass window. Now pay close attention here because you and I know taking back the ring was just the start. She had stomped in wearing huge heels. I was busy reviewing a huge buyout contract. She did not even knock. Her footsteps echoing on the floor sounded super sharp. Every single click was purposely designed to announce her big entrance. My secretary could not block her. Since we were kids, she never ever needed an appointment. I am Ren Yang, the big boss of the Ren Group, and my family line's only son. And she is the famous Zhao Group heiress, her rich family clan's single pampered daughter. Our giant families worked together for 20 years. We basically grew up together. Sitting at my massive desk, I finished signing the final paper and put my pen down. Right as I finished, I looked up. She was standing there, posture absolutely perfect, and makeup looking totally flawless. Her bright red lips were tightly sealed, totally waiting for me to speak first. I stayed quiet, just handing the paperwork to my assistant. So why? I asked. She froze for a second, clearly shocked. I only asked her that one simple question. I am totally in love with someone else. Her voice was not loud, but super confident. My pen stopped moving for just a brief moment. Just one tiny moment of surprise, I calmly shut the document box, placed it on my tray, and stared right up into her eyes. Got it. The engagement is canceled. Go tell both our fathers yourself. The entire room instantly became incredibly awkward. Her confident face suddenly completely cracked. She probably prepared a huge, dramatic speech for this exact moment. You and I totally thought he would demand to know who the guy was, right? Or scream about how this ruins their family business plans. She honestly expected an explosive, raging meltdown. But I kept it cool. I even politely stood up and opened the big door for her. Need anything else? I casually asked. She stared at me forever. Her eyes were full of totally confused and bitter emotions. Ren Yang, do you seriously not care? I locked eyes with her. An engagement is a deal between 2 equal partners. Since you already decided, I respect that. Her breathing got super fast. Did you honestly stop liking me a long time ago? She asked with pure bitterness in her voice. I stayed silent. Feelings like love or hate never mattered in giant corporate families like ours. When we got engaged, she was 20 and I was 22. Our massive party had 50 tables. The financial news went absolutely crazy, calling it the ultimate alliance of billionaire titans. Everyone assumed we would definitely get married. Even I accepted this destiny. She had been completely spoiled since she was little. Being the only beloved daughter of the Zhao family leader, she got whatever she requested. She was totally used to everyone worshiping her, being the center of attention, and having others clean up all her messy mistakes for her. But I was totally different. Since becoming boss at 24, I had to count every single penny of our massive capital myself. I personally handled every single contract. My powerful family gave me this huge title, but they never made the hard choices for me. So when she confessed her secret romance, my first thought was not explosive anger, but calculation. Calculating the business impact, measuring the risks, checking the costs. She just stood there totally frozen. His name is Guo Yeguang, she suddenly blurted out. I simply nodded. Her face twisted up. Are you really not going to ask what he is like? Since he is the guy you picked, you must already know exactly who he is. My tone stayed as unbelievably cool as ice. She laughed bitterly. You are always sickeningly rational. Trust me, you and I just witnessed the ultimate cool boss move. Stick with me here. She stared intently, hunting for a single crack in my calm composure, but she found absolutely zero. I always knew feelings were completely useless at any negotiation table. Giving up, she finally turned around and marched right out. The loud sound of her stomping heels echoed way heavier than before. Once the heavy door shut, I just stood there briefly, then dropped heavily back into my chair. The large glass wall showed my reflection so eerily calm that even I barely recognized my own face. My assistant Xiao Chen knocked and walked inside. He cautiously asked about Miss Zhao. I replied, "Tell legal to draft an engagement cancellation statement immediately. Keep all the wording totally objective." "Yes, sir." He hesitated slightly before asking about our business partnerships. I quietly stared at the thick documents on my desk. Right now, all the funding for the Zhao family's 3 major core projects came entirely from us. With the engagement off, those partnerships definitely needed a total reevaluation. Just leave them alone for now. Understood, sir. After he walked out, the large office went completely silent again. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a message from Zhao. "Do you actually feel relieved?" I just glanced at the text without replying. By 8 p.m. I was still sitting in the conference room tackling new projects alongside the investment team. Once finished, my phone instantly buzzed with her brand new social media update. In the picture, she rested against some guy's chest. He rocked a dark suit, sharp eyebrows, and a super arrogant smile. "Watch closely here. I remembered meeting this guy at a banquet once back when he was just some flashy upstart. His company really wasn't anything massive, but the guy talked a huge game and grabbed opportunities fast." Her photo caption literally just read, "Finally, we do not have to hide anymore." The comment section was going crazy. People were congratulating them, hyping them up, and totally asking about me. I tapped the screen to zoom in closer. She looked ridiculously happy, smiling way sweeter than she ever did during any events with me. I simply hit the like button and closed out. My assistant walked in with files and caught a glimpse of my screen. His expression shifted fast. President Ren. I just casually flipped through 2 pages, signed my full signature, and firmly said, "From now on, stop reporting Miss Zhao's personal updates to me." "Yes, sir." The office lights slowly clicked off one by one. Night fell outside the tall glass windows. Leaning back in my heavy chair, I closed my eyes. It honestly was not that I never expected her leaving. I just never expected her to pull a stunt exactly like this. But since she made her choice, I had to make my move too. You and I both know breakups are personal, but breaking a corporate partnership, that is a massive war between companies. I absolutely refused to gamble my group's future over some failed romance, and I definitely wouldn't change my pace just because of her choices. Grabbing my phone, I fired off a text to my father. "Engagement canceled. We will discuss the details tomorrow." He texted back one simple word. Acknowledged. Absolutely zero blame, zero emotion. That was exactly how our Ren family operated. Early the next morning, financial group chats completely blew up about Zhao and Guo Yeguang. The public opinion was shifting crazily fast. People guessed the bond between the Ren and Zhao families was totally shattered. Others speculated our massive business ties would tumble. I closed the chat window and drove straight to the company. The morning sunlight outside the car was incredibly blinding. Suddenly, it hit me. Ever since our engagement day, everyone naturally assumed we would make it to the very end. She was literally just the person who hopped off the train early. Totally fine. At least before marrying her, I avoided dealing with way messier relationship drama, and I did not have to split my assets. Everything stayed perfectly under my control. When the elevator doors finally opened, I snapped right back into my cold, clear-headed, and laser-focused working mode. My secretary quickly handed over today's agenda. I grabbed it, glanced down, and ordered schedule a board meeting for 3 p.m. sharp. He looked totally stunned. "So fast, sir." "Yes, some things cannot wait." Since she publicly flaunted her relationship, I needed to clearly broadcast my ruthless stance as well. I walked into my office and sat down. The desk was perfectly spotless, documents categorized cleanly. The glass wall outside vividly reflected the sprawling city below. I just stared at that giant mirror-like structure. The city never stops turning just because somebody walks away. Money works exactly the same. Romance ends, but business partnerships require brutal recalculation from scratch. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again. It was Zhao. What exactly did you just like? I stared blankly at her text for a few moments, then replied with two simple words. Your happiness. After hitting send, I flipped my phone onto silent mode. The board meeting documents were laid out. I flipped open the first page. From this exact second forward, I was nobody's fiancé. I was the ruthless head of the Ren Group, and she was just another business partner's spoiled heiress. Whether she loved him or not, whether it was worth everything, that was her poor choice. I had my own epic path to walk alone. Makes you think, right? 3 days later, I heard the news in the boardroom, not from her. Let's jump into a wild corporate showdown. The legal team casually dropped a massive bombshell. The Zhao family officially registered their marriage today. Guo Yeguang is now their main partner. My hand right while turning a page just stopped completely for a single second. Noted, I calmly said. Continue the meeting. At 10:30 a.m., my phone rang. The glowing screen showed Uncle Zhao. I answered. The line was totally silent for a few seconds before he finally spoke. Ren Yang, it is Uncle. I am sorry. His voice sounded heavy and rough. I stood up and walked to the window. It was her choice. It was way too impulsive. He held back his rage. She went straight to register that marriage today without even talking to the family first. I stayed completely quiet. He kept going, the business partnership between our two families will not be ruined, right? Finally, we hit the real issue here. Business is just business. An engagement is an engagement. My voice stayed calm, but I will definitely have to rethink our projects. The other line went completely quiet for 2 seconds. What exactly do you mean? The funds must be reorganized. Ren Yang, please do not act rashly. I absolutely never act rashly. I hung up, walked right back to the conference table, and called in the head of investments. Pull every single file on our 3 main deals with the Zhao family. He was totally shocked. President Ren, why are we auditing this so suddenly for the board meeting tonight? The vibe inside that conference room noticeably and instantly shifted. Watch carefully now. Lizia, my longtime investment director, knew exactly when I was making a real move. He quietly asked, is this because of Miss Zhao? It is strictly for capital efficiency. I gave absolutely no other explanation. At 3 p.m., the board meeting kicked off right on time. Over 12 shareholders took their seats. The former Ren family chairman, my own father, sat right near the main seat. He stayed totally silent, just watching my every move. I fired up the projector. First item, the Zhao family commercial complex. 4 billion in tied-up capital. The payback timeline has dragged out by 6 whole months. Second item, the new energy deal. 2.5 billion tied up. Current profits are falling short. Third item, real estate buyout. Risk levels have officially spiked. I paused for effect. Final assessment. I propose we pull our core investments. Someone in the room frowned hard. Yanking our funds right now, the public will definitely see this as a pure revenge move. How they see it is their own problem. I locked eyes with the shareholder who just spoke. Our cash flow returns are our priority. Lizia chimed in, if we pull out now, our cash flow gets a massive immediate boost. An older veteran shareholder sighed. With the deep history between the Ren and Zhao families, isn't this way too rushed? I flipped to the last page. Money never cares about feelings. You felt that chill too, right? The entire room fell completely silent. My father finally spoke. Let's vote. The motion passed incredibly fast with a massive majority. I signed the official paperwork right there on the spot. The huge fund withdrawal process officially started. After the meeting, my dad called me back. Do you know exactly what you're doing? I absolutely do. He gave me a deep look and said nothing else. At 7 p.m., Zhao Liangxin called. I stared at the screen, then finally answered. Renyang, did you hold a sudden board meeting today? Was pulling the funds your idea? It was a formal board decision. She took a shaky breath. Do you think this is funny? I stayed quiet for a few seconds. Are you doing this just because of me? She demanded. The Zhao family profit numbers are clearly in the reports. You can go read them your own self. Her voice actually started to shake. You know perfectly well I just got married and the whole company is in a fragile transition phase. If you pull your funds right now, how will the public look at me? I am only responsible to the Ren Group. With those cold words, the other line went totally silent. After a really long pause, she softly whispered, You have changed. The call suddenly dropped. Less than an hour later, Guo Yeguang actually reached out suggesting we meet at a fancy downtown club. I arrived right on time. He looked way sharper in person than in his pictures. His eyes carried a clear hint of total provocation. President Ren moves incredibly fast. He started talking. My work efficiency has always been top tier. He let out a very cold laugh. You're doing this just because you're bitter, right? I calmly picked up my teacup. You're definitely overthinking it. With the Zhao family funding completely pulled, the market will doubt her judgment. His tone was full of sharp thorns. You're doing this just to corner her completely. I stared right at him. I pulled the investment because those profits absolutely did not hit our targets. Are you seriously going to play the strict business card here? What else could it possibly be? He leaned way back in his chair. You guys love pretending to be so calm. On the outside, you act totally fine, but behind the scenes, you're always playing those dirty, shady tricks. People like us. I looked at him completely calmly and gently put down my teacup. So what do we learn here? If you think the money is an issue, fill the gap yourself. His arrogant expression instantly broke. Let's dive right in. The Zhao family's 3 projects were absolutely massive. His current company couldn't easily take over. I will cover it, he claimed. Then I wish you total success. I stood up and he instantly followed. Don't you want to know why she picked me? It really doesn't matter. He glared at me for a moment, then coldly scoffed. Guys like you live way too calculated a life. I stayed silent and just walked out. The night breeze felt freezing. The exact moment my car door shut, Lizia called me. President Ren, the capital withdrawal news hit the Zhao family. The local banks have already started reevaluating their entire credit lines. Just follow standard protocol. I leaned back in my seat, resting my eyes for a quick second. This wasn't actual revenge. It was just stopping our funding. The Zhao family had expanded way too fast lately. Countless projects relied on our cash to survive. With that safety net totally removed, the financial pressure would naturally expose itself. By next morning, Zhao family stocks were shaking. The investment team reported that the entire market had taken a cautious wait-and-see approach. Keep monitoring it closely. At noon, Uncle Zhao called. Ren Young, you are pushing the Zhao family into a total corner. I am not targeting anyone. Once you pull funding, the banks panic. Those manufacturing plants are hesitating now. The massive risks were always there. He stayed completely silent. Do you seriously have zero affection left for Liangjin? I paused briefly. Personal feelings absolutely cannot be swapped for business capital. A heavy sigh came through the phone. Today she got questioned so harshly at the board meeting she couldn't even speak. That is her own responsibility. After hanging up, I walked back to the conference room. The team had our new investment direction totally ready. I pointed right at the screen. Divert all this capital to the tech park project, but is the timeline too tight? Lizia looked at me, then nodded. We will finish the project proposal today, right at 4 p.m. News broke that Yu Yeguang publicly claimed our group withdrawing was purely emotional. I saw the forwarded article but completely ignored it. Watch carefully now. Lizia asked, do we issue a correction? No need. Let the whole market keep guessing. Guessing changes absolutely nothing about cash flow. Push the projects forward. In the office, the phone kept ringing continuously. Anxious partners were calling to check the situation. I gave one unified answer. The Ren Group is restructuring investments based purely on business value. At 9 p.m., Liangjin showed up right downstairs at my company. No prior appointment. Security called up to confirm, and I allowed her in. Walking into the office, she wore a simple business suit, totally lacking that happy glow of a new bride. Are you satisfied now, she demanded. Satisfied with exactly what? All day long, the Zhao family had to explain our capital problems. What you really need to explain are the actual numbers. She glared at me. You knew the banks would tighten our credit. Bank risk assessments do not need my strict instructions. Her breathing grew much heavier. You just want to make things difficult. If this feels difficult, it just proves those projects actually have problems. She stared totally stunned. Ren Yang, you were never like this. You and I know things change. Before I was not chairman. She opened her mouth entirely speechless. The room froze. Suddenly lowering her voice, she asked, do you seriously not feel anything about my marriage? As those exact words dropped, her face went completely pale. A few quiet seconds later, she turned away. This time, she wasn't wearing those 18-centimeter heels. Her slow footsteps were so light they were practically silent. The door clicked shut. I checked the capital withdrawal documents right on my desk. The entire process was halfway finished. Funds were steadily returning. Outside the huge window, the city was brilliantly illuminated. And over at the Zhao family headquarters, their lights were on too. Except this time, I was no longer the one quietly standing behind them. By the third day of the withdrawal, over half the funds were safely recovered. The CFO dropped a report onto my desk. President Ren, our cash flow has improved massively. There is absolutely no pressure in advancing our new projects. I glanced over the data and simply nodded. Updates from their side arrived instantly. Banks were fiercely auditing the Zhao family's credit. Major partners had postponed their contract signings. It was not an outright betrayal, but a careful observation. And observation itself means the wind shifted. At 10 a.m., Lidzia knocked and walked in. Over at the Zhao family, 2 suppliers are forcefully demanding early payment. What do the actual contract terms say? The payment window is 3 months. Then make them follow the contract. He nodded and left. I knew this financial pressure was just starting to surface. The Zhao family had expanded way too fast. Commercial malls, new energy, real estate buys all advancing at massive scale together. It looked amazing on paper, but their cash flow was always stretched insanely tight. Previously, with the Ren Group's huge capital supporting them, those risks stayed hidden. What do we learn here? Without my support, their cracks naturally start showing. Trust me, you and I are about to witness some wild drama. I dropped my pen as Miss Zhao entered. Today she wore basic flat shoes and messy hair. Her usually flawless makeup was totally falling apart. Her usual arrogant attitude totally gone. She marched right up to my desk without sitting. "We need to talk," she said. "Speak," I replied. "The banks are cutting off our credit." "Did you know? Now suppliers are actually demanding their payments way early. That is an internal problem for your team." She glared, pure fire burning in her eyes. "Does it have to be this way?" I shut my folder. "You chose. So did I." She gripped the desk. "You know how hard it is for the Zhao Group. You are Gu Yeguang's wife." She choked up. "Stop acting so coldly. Business titles are naturally cold." She stared at me, then suddenly slumped into a chair. "Ren Yong, our families worked together for years. You just pull your money and walk away. What will everyone think? The public will not magically fix your cash flow." Her breath hitched. I did not yell or get angry. I was stating pure facts. She stayed quiet, her voice finally softening. "We can give the Ren Group better terms, higher profits. The project risks have not decreased at all. We can add collateral. You are mortgaging assets, not a future." She finally had nothing to say. "You are going to want to see this." A rich girl who never struggled was finally facing a massive chain reaction of consequences. "Where is Gu Yeguang?" I asked. Her expression froze. "He is out begging for capital." "How is that going?" She stayed silent. The truth was written on her face. I walked to the window. "The Zhao family needs cash right now, not emotions." She stood up, her voice totally shaking. "Do you want us to fail?" I turned around. "I am not targeting you, but that is the obvious result. It is just business." She bit her lip. "You never treated me this way before? Before you were not my enemy." Her eyes instantly filled with tears and she quickly turned her face away. No mercy at all. "The board made their choice. Then can you please ask them to reconsider? I have zero reason to." She stayed silent, her voice dropping fast. "Ren Yong, are you really this heartless?" She waited for a denial I never gave. The door clicked shut softly. I sat down to work. At 8 p.m. news of the Zhao board meeting reached my desk. Angry shareholders demanded answers. Their money gap was exploding and all those project funds were massively delayed. Some wanted to cut investments. Others desperately suggested begging for new strategic capital. Uncle Zhao literally slammed the table. "You ruined this marriage yourself." Naturally, the meeting ended in total failure. "We saw this coming, right?" Li Xiao whispered. "They are in chaos. Keep watching those numbers." Next morning, a familiar guy was sitting right in my conference room. No appointment. He forced a meeting through business channels. When he finally sat down, his face was colder than ice. "President Ren, about the Zhao family. Do you think you are going too far? Adjusting investments is totally fair, but after you pulled your money, every bank immediately ran away too. Banks only care about money, not feelings. Doing this makes things incredibly difficult for Liang Xing right now. She made her choice. You guys are teaming up, betting she will break. I do not gamble, I win." He glared, hunting for any weakness. "We can renegotiate our teamwork. What can you even offer?" He just paused. "Future energy resources. Do you have distribution channels or real contracts for that?" Silence. I slid a financial report right to him. This is the Zhao family's money deficit. He glanced down, his face turning dark. You investigate fast. It is public data. He slammed it shut. Renyong, are you not being too logical here? Logic keeps you alive longer. He laughed bitterly. Doing this only pushes the Zhao family to other markets. He angrily stood up. Just wait, I did not stop him. Soon after, Li Xia walked in. Those angry Zhao shareholders are demanding real solutions right now. They want to beg Gu Yeguang's company for cash. He is not big enough. Let us see what terms they get. At 3 p.m., Uncle Zhao called. He sounded totally exhausted. Renyong, the board wants me to step down now, and that is where we leave it. They blamed his daughter for everything, and I just stayed completely silent. Trust me, we're diving into pure drama. The line went silent. Care about our past? Nope. I only care about my risk control. He laughed bitterly. Man, you are way more ruthless than I ever was back then. The market today is way tougher than before. I hung up, leaning back. The sun outside was fiercely bright. Down below, endless traffic kept flowing. Just another totally normal business day. By dusk, Zhao Liangxing showed up at my building again. This time, she just waited down in the lobby. Heading down, I saw her on the sofa, phone gripped tight, looking completely exhausted. She finally looked up. Could we talk once more? The board is crushing my dad. Shareholders hold all the real power. You know exactly what the real problem is. It's the capital structure. She stared, her voice choking up a bit. Gu Yeguang promised he could hold on, but the banks just won't give us time. That's entirely their own problem to solve. Her voice suddenly spiked. Can't you just cut us some slack? Bystanders stared. Keeping my voice low, I reminded her this is a company, not home. Seconds later, her shoulders slumped. I never thought it'd end like this. Well, choices always have a price. She looked over, eyes swirling with regret. If I hadn't looked, bringing up the past now is totally meaningless. Closing her eyes, she inhaled deeply. Won't you show me any mercy? I already did, actually. She glanced up. When the exact day you demanded our breakup, I turned away. I've got a meeting. She didn't follow. The glass doors closed, locking her out. By 10 p.m., the Zhao family board met again. Now pay attention here. The shareholders aggressively demanded a total management swap. Uncle Zhao absolutely exploded mid-meeting. You ruined this marriage yourself. Word of that quickly reached my ears. I dropped my phone completely unbothered. Only keyboards clicked in the office. Data was still updating. The situation kept evolving. I neither stepped in nor backed down. After that wild board meeting drama, the market shifted fast. 2 banks completely slashed the Zhao family's credit limits. Funding was slashed. Cash flow slowed way down. Partners who almost signed suddenly backed out. I completely cut contact with Zhao Liangxing. Meanwhile, my projects ran smoothly. The tech park bidding was coming up and our capital was completely ready. You and I both know it wouldn't end here. Gu Yeguang wasn't just gonna roll over. Guys like him never admit defeat or admit they messed up. Li Xia handed me a document. Boss, here is Gu Yeguang's financial history. I popped the file open. Years ago, he used a fake marriage to infiltrate a top company. That stunt lasted just 2 years. Once he stole their resources, he dipped out and started his very own company. It wasn't massive, but his fundraising speed was absolutely ruthless and aggressive. He constantly name-dropped partners to hype his status. Very bold. Not just bold, Li Xia noted, heavily leveraged. And right now he's leveraging the Zhao family. I just stayed totally quiet. The Zhao family's massive assets were his biggest chip ever, and Zhao Liangxing was his ace card. That night featured a huge business banquet. All the top-tier companies were definitely showing up there. I almost sent my VP but changed my mind. Some epic trash talk just needs to happen face-to-face. The VIP banquet hit the hotel's top floor, soft lights, glasses constantly clinking. Stepping inside, I immediately spotted Gu Yeguang, rocking a sharp suit, totally surrounded by eager investors. He spoke with insane confidence, waving his hands around. Zhao Liangxing stood near him, faking a smile. Seeing me, her confident gaze instantly dropped. Gu Yeguang followed her eyes, caught me staring, and smirked. Minutes later, he actually strutted right over. Boss Ren, long time. We just met 2 days ago. I raised my glass. That wasn't official. Now we can truly talk. He leaned in close. You've made some massive moves lately. Just routine capital tweaks. The Zhao family is feeling some intense pressure right now. Market's just being the market. Then he suddenly smirked. Aren't you intensely jealous? A bystander quickly glanced over. I laughed. Jealous? She chose you. That's where we leave it. I'm officially out of the game. Let's dive into a wild corporate chess match. His smile froze completely. Think you pulled out clean? My financial books are absolutely spotless. His eyes instantly turned icy. The Zhao family problems did not just appear overnight, so it is even more critical to make things crystal clear. He stared right at me for a moment, whispering softly, just wait and see. See what exactly? See who actually conquers this giant chessboard. That is your mission. I did not stay spinning around to chat with another big investor. I spotted Zhao Liangxing standing nearby, looking incredibly conflicted today. She never stepped forward. Right before the party wrapped up, Li Xia texted me. 2 partners paused their contracts with the Zhao family. I replied with one single word noted. By the next morning, the news hit even harder. Gu Yeguang's massive fundraising plan crashed completely. A major backer who promised to join suddenly bailed out. The reason was obvious. The Zhao family cash flow was practically snapping. Risks shot through the roof, triggering a crazy domino effect. Li Xia reported calmly. They tried using the Zhao family as a safety net. Now that net is tearing. The market reaction makes perfect sense. Now, pay attention. Watch how it escalates. Yu Yeguang is scrambling for fresh funds. I flipped the document. Can he actually secure that impossible deal? The new terms will be absolutely brutal. Later, Zhao Liangxing texted me. Got time for a quick chat? I ignored it at first. Half an hour later, she showed up downstairs, this time totally ditching the fancy clothes. She wore a basic white shirt, hair looking a bit messy. She walked straight in without saying hi. You totally investigated him, right? Not a question, just a hard fact. Public records. You leaked his past to those investors, right? I literally did not have to. She glared at me, totally conflicted. They all know the truth anyway. Those investors always do their own digging. She went totally quiet. His past marriage was pure business. I know, and you definitely know it too. I fired back, and now they know. Her voice shook. Did you see right through this from the beginning? I checked the data. You focused on the guy, but a guy always shows his true colors in data. She suddenly cracked a super bitter smile. I thought you were just cold. Now I see you literally calculate every single moving piece out there. I cannot ever calculate real feelings. We both froze for a split second there. She looked away. The pressure is absolutely massive right now. She stared at me. Are you really not worried at all? What if we actually flip the script? That entirely depends on your own skills. She bit her lip hard. Do you seriously feel nothing at all? I have absolutely zero right to step in right here. Her eyes grew super dark. So you will just stand there watching the market crush me without lifting a single finger. She stayed totally silent for a long minute. Why did he want me visiting you? To talk about a brand new partnership. What does the Ren Group need to drop cash again? What exactly is your baseline here? She dropped her voice down low. We can hand over more equity. The risk stays absolutely identical. We can totally restructure projects. The money shortage is a harsh reality. She looked up. You and I can feel that heavy tension. You will just watch me get trapped. You walked this path yourself. Her voice trembled a bit. Do you not hate me? Holding a grudge never fixes bad cash flow. A few ticks later, she asked if I stayed back then, would you treat the Zhao family like this? Definitely not. Her face drained of all color. So it is me. The entire power dynamic shifted. She went totally silent again. That natural, stubborn pride was shattering right off her face completely. She stepped over to the window, staring outside. He claimed he could survive this. Then let him survive. She turned around, real doubt flashing in her eyes for the first time. Ren Yong, did you ever wonder if he targeted me because she faded out? Are you just realizing that? She stared at the floor. The office was insanely quiet. Standing there a while, she whispered, he sent me to prove he is the much stronger guy. True power is never proven with just empty words. Then why did you not jump in? I already backed out. She stared at me, finally grasping the incredibly heavy truth behind those 4 little words. Backing out means quitting the game, completely dropping that massive burden. She stood frozen in place, super quiet for ages. His company cash flow actually started drying up today. She suddenly mumbled, that is typical. Are you not shocked? The setup controls everything. She smiled bitterly. You saw this coming way back. I only read financial sheets. She stayed totally quiet. Reaching the heavy door, she finally stopped short. He sent me to somehow win you over. What are your thoughts now? She stayed silent for a long time. I honestly have no idea. That was the very first time she ever admitted defeat. The door clicked shut. I stared down at the massive stack of papers on my desk. Time passed. Yu Yeguang's money plans stalled completely. Several partners started watching closely. The market literally never cares about feelings I did not intervene or warn her. So what do you and I take from this? Make a terrible bet you face the music yourself. All right, stick with me. Yu Yeguang's fundraising got delayed a third time. The market finally made its brutal stance clear, not a straight-up no. Just a savage stalling tactic. Conditions got brutal. Valuations kept dropping. Inside the Zhao family, the tension was basically off the charts. Massive pressure crashed down from everywhere. Those boardroom complaints and doubts, yeah, they were totally relentless. Luzia hands over the new summary. The Zhao family stock still totally tanking. Minor shareholders are bailing fast. Who's buying? Just random retail investors. Not a single major institutional player in sight. I tell them to keep watching. At 4 p.m. a knock. Miss Zhao is waiting outside for her appointment. The door opens. I look up and wow, I barely even recognized her. Plain black clothes, zero jewelry, hair locked in a tight bun. Her face looked way more pale than the last time we met. Her usual arrogant pride completely gone. She marches up to my desk, skipping any greeting. She just says they can renegotiate. Straight to the point. Negotiate what? She sits down, hands tightly clasped. The Zhao family's huge commercial project. She offers better terms to let me back in. I ask for the equity share. She drops a number definitely higher than before. What's the capital gap? She hesitates. Short term is 1.5 billion. Long term is still pending. I lean back smoothly. The risks are still there. We'd have to invest in phases, checking collateral core assets liquidity. I stop pushing. Personal feelings set aside. Yeah, the project could technically continue. Now watch closely. I ask, whose wife are you right now? The room freezes entirely. She grips her fingers super tight. She softly says she knew I'd bring that fact up, but claims her marriage doesn't mean a strict commercial tie. Then who exactly are you representing right now? Total silence. I stand up, grab a specific file from the cabinet, and drop it right in front of her. It's the Ren Group's brand new partnership list. She checks the first page. No sign of the Zhao family. Second page, nothing. She flips to the very end, her hands visibly trembling the whole time. She realizes I planned this ages ago. Capital never sleeps. She looks up, her voice cracking, asking if I won't even give them one chance. I tell her there's logically zero reason to. She offers to step down from the board. That's strictly an internal family issue. Red eyes staring right at me. She mentions our childhood together. I tell her that's history. Am I really this ruthless? I don't make big corporate choices based on pure feelings. She suddenly gives a weak smile, saying I sound completely cold and heartless. Being nice doesn't fix broken financial reports. She closes the file and suddenly asks, what if I just get divorced? I give her an absolutely blank stare. That's her personal choice. She begs, if I dump him, will you reconsider? A sudden divorce doesn't fix project risks. She finally gets it. My rejection wasn't about the terms, the entire core structure had totally changed. She stands up and nervously paces around the quiet office. You and I know his game. Yu Yeguang claimed I just wanted them to bow, expecting I'd eventually give in. He sent her to test the waters. She doesn't even try to deny it. A few quiet seconds pass before she speaks up softly. They are both drowning in insane amounts of pressure. For the very first time, her voice actually sounded totally helpless and broken. The board already suggested bringing in outside money, but the conditions are awful. I tell her to go evaluate them anyway. Taking that deal means heavy share dilution. That's just harsh reality. She steps closer. Ren Yong, I freely admit I judged things totally wrong early on. Silence from me. She thought he'd bring fresh resources and huge growth, but now she can't read the guy's intentions at all. She drops her head, hiding her feelings. She genuinely never expected me to cut ties this fast and clean. A purely necessary move. She looks right up. Have I ever felt even a tiny bit of regret? She goes blank. That glowing confidence everyone used to chase completely shattered right here. She slumps heavy into the chair, her voice fading out entirely. She admits feeling like a total failure. I simply reply that failure is just an outcome, not a permanent life label. You never used to talk to me like this, she mutters. The office goes dead silent, just the hum of the air conditioning running. A few quiet minutes pass. She finally stands up, asking for one last chance. If the Zhao family quits the board and hires true professionals, would I invest? I tell her I need to see the official proposal first. A slow nod. She promises a fresh proposal knowing time is running out. She walks toward the exit, then suddenly freezes. Turns out Yu Yeguang pushed major executive blame onto her during today's meeting, and sadly she had already signed her name. Sign the paper, take the hit. He closed his eyes and easily shifted the blame onto her. Honestly, I wasn't even slightly surprised. So what do we learn here? Watch your back. Her lonely silhouette leaves, and that night the Zhao family stock absolutely tanks again. Stick with me, we just got some very cautious investment news. They asked if I planned a hostile takeover. I stayed quiet, just staring out my massive office windows. City lights glowed outside. Looking out, I remembered the very first time she stood beside me looking stunning. Back then, she bragged about her family's bright future. Her ambitions were absolutely sky high, but ambition requires smart judgment, something she clearly lacked. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a message. She wanted to redo her proposal. I ignored it, looking at my open partnerships. My capital was already locked in. This was never about feelings, just a ruthless business shift. She thought breaking our engagement was her only loss, but really she destroyed her entire foundation. 3 days later, the market gave its brutal answer before she even tried. The massive debts of Yu Yeguang's companies were suddenly exposed for everyone to see. Not just a rumor, but a cold, hard financial report. Huge loans were overdue. Interest was piling up fast, and their entire cash flow was totally breaking down. Lizia dropped the documents right on my desk. I flipped through them. Did her family guarantee this mess? They shared the liability. She had actually signed off as the vice president. Now watch closely. As vice president and Gu Yaoguang's wife, she was hopelessly trapped. Then at 3 o'clock, the Zhao Group announced a sudden stock shift. Zhao Liangxing just sold her personal shares. Sold for cheap. The reason was painfully obvious, covering massive losses. Lizia sounded completely unfazed. She wanted to save him. Impossible. Later that evening, I met 2 bankers in my reception area. They got straight to the point. President Ren, will your group jump into the Zhao family's messy debt restructuring? No current plans, I replied. If their company collapses, the entire industry is going to panic hard. Everything is too connected here. The bankers just nodded, knowing better than to push me. After they left, I went back. Then my secretary knocked. Miss Zhao is downstairs waiting. I paused. Send her up. When she walked in, she looked completely unrecognizable. No makeup, eyes totally bloodshot. She closed the door quietly. You saw right. I nodded. She just stood there. His company's debt is way worse than I ever imagined. The financial reports are out everywhere. The banks are calling. Standard procedure, I thought. She laughed bitterly. You and I both knew this was coming, right? Did you ever think to warn me? She asked. I did the day you ended our engagement. The room's energy instantly dropped. She collapsed into the chair, hiding her face. Looking up, she whispered hoarsely, He is not you. Did you consider that when you chose him? She gripped the chair. I thought he was brave. Bravery doesn't equal the strength to carry heavy burdens. She slowly closed her eyes. Today, the board tried firing me for executive errors. I just kept signing my important documents. I gave no comfort, but no mockery either. If I resign now, will you step in? She looked like a ghost. Why? Because even if your family falls, the market demands a price. Tears finally spilled down her pale face. Not a loud sob, just quiet, crushing heartbreak. I didn't hand her a tissue. Not out of cruelty, but because I respect absolute boundaries. Wiping her eyes, she trembled. Gu Yaoguang actually blamed me for forcing the crazy business expansion. Did you know, but I signed. She jumped up. Do I deserve this? I stayed quiet. She laughed at herself. I thought I controlled everything. Now my entire marriage is falling apart. He claims it's just temporary pressure. But let's be real, massive debt ignores sweet, comforting words. We had a huge public fight yesterday. The media took pictures. I didn't ask for the details. He's shifting the blame, claiming I made the choices. I just asked how she responded. Silence is an answer, too. I realized she barely knew him, but now her eyes were opening. It's way too late, she whispered, standing there totally broken. My father is getting incredibly sick. The board pressure is insane, and I must handle his debts. She whispered, I never thought I'd actually lose like this. So what do we learn here? Bad judgment costs everything. Slowly, she sat back down in defeat. Stick with me here, this takeover gets wild, my condition to participate, absolute controlling interest. I need total control. It is the only way to manage this risk. She gasped in shock. But then the Zhao family wouldn't even be ours anymore. Honestly, does it even belong to them now? She went totally silent. Her phone buzzed in her bag, but she completely ignored the screen. He is looking for you, I pointed out smoothly. He claims the funding is negotiable. Who exactly is helping him? He is desperately searching for new investors. At an incredibly low value. That is the ultimate price. If I had stayed back then, would you have helped me fix this mess? Back then, this massive crisis did not exist. Her hopeful eyes darkened. I thought you were freezing cold, but you actually saw through every lie. She quickly stood up. I did not come here to beg. Then why come? I just needed the absolute truth. Does my family have any chance left? Zero. She froze. The first step is finally waking up to reality. Reality means massive restructuring, harsh cuts, and bringing in our Ren group. If the deal is fair, I will persuade the board. I will make them accept diluted shares. Anything is better than a total collapse. Her voice totally shifted right there. All that reckless emotion vanished, completely replaced by a super sharp, cold clarity. Walking to the exit, she paused. Today, Gu Yaoguang demanded a divorce. I just stared right back at her. Your thoughts? She hesitated for a moment. I will think it over before deciding. The huge office went totally quiet until Li Zia stepped inside. Now pay attention here. The board just revealed their desperate restructuring strategy, slashing projects for fast cash. The final share ratio is still heavily debated. Keep watching. Nighttime arrived. Bright lights in the opposing tower glowed fiercely. I simply sat there, completely drained of any useless, lingering feelings. She shifted from reckless to sorry, from lost to totally strong, but her final path was locked. 3 days after the Zhao family revealed their big survival plan, a super rare official letter arrived at our Ren group. This was no casual message from Zhao Liangxing. It was a highly formal partnership request directly from their desperate board. Written under the corporate banner, the tone was incredibly cautious yet direct, begging our Ren group to step in as a major investor. Terms entirely open. I tossed the file down, letting them sweat a bit. Li Zia waited nearby. They actually used formal channels today. Who signed this request? The Zhao family chairman authorized it personally. 2 p.m. rolled around. The showdown was officially scheduled right at their main headquarters. I kept my team small, just my lawyer and financial chief. The tension inside that boardroom felt significantly frostier than my past casual visits. A few senior Zhao elites occupied the main chairs, looking incredibly stressed out. Many investors looked completely defeated. Zhao Liangxing took a corner chair. She was definitely not the main boss anymore. That sidelined chair proved her vice president rank meant absolutely nothing now. I took my spot and calmly laid out my papers. You and I know this is tense. Their boss spoke. Ren Yang, let us cooperate as equals. I nodded, completely unfazed. Our family will open up shares and welcome the Ren group at this exact percentage. He confidently threw out a specific number. It fell way short of total control. I glanced at my financial lead, who instantly refused. That amount does not justify our massive risk. The entire room went dead silent. One nervous investor finally cracked. President Ren, what do you demand? My answer, absolute controlling interest. Those 3 heavy words made the air incredibly thick. The Zhao leader nervously drummed his shaking fingers against the wooden table. Total control means our family loses all leverage. I scoffed. Do you even possess any leverage right now? Panicked investors swapped worried looks. My brilliant financial director flashed a brutal data chart on screen. Without the Ren group bailing you out, your cash reserves will hit critical failure within 3 short months. The projected numbers were incredibly harsh, showing zero mercy to their pride. One older executive whispered nervously, could we possibly find different investors elsewhere? I stayed totally quiet. My financial expert fired back immediately. Any outside money will demand significantly worse terms. The proud Zhao leader sat there speechless for an eternity. Ren Yang, are you seriously pushing us this close to the edge? This is just business. His gaze felt incredibly heavy and conflicted. You and Liangxing were childhood friends. We are strictly discussing the fate of this company. He shut his eyes, exhaling deeply. Please give us a little time. I agreed. The tense session paused, and I waited by the sunny hallway window. Minutes later, Zhao Liangxing approached me, completely barefaced, looking surprisingly steady. Do you truly need absolute control over us? That is my non-negotiable requirement. she sighed. Then our great family name essentially dies today. Honestly, it stopped being your empire a long time ago. She stared hard. You have completely transformed. I shrugged, just playing a different game. Emotionless, she admitted they had zero choice. You and I just witnessed an absolute corporate checkmate. Let's dive right in. All that past arrogance completely crushed. Minutes later, everyone headed back into the conference room. The Zhao family head sighed. We accept the controlling interest deal. Shareholders nodded quietly. Zero objections in the room. The terms got finalized super fast. Ren Group injected massive capital, taking over half the total shares. The Zeos kept a few seats, losing all actual decision power. On signing day, the entire room was dead silent. Sitting at the absolute head seat, I signed first. The Zhao leader signed next. Zhao Langxing stood quietly aside, completely stripped of her right to speak. She stared at the finalized documents, totally blank. The signing finished. I stood up. Our Ren Group team will lead all future integrations. Understood, the Zhao family head replied, his voice carrying immense heavy weight. The meeting finally dispersed. Everyone slowly filed out. Zhao Liangxing was the very last one remaining. Did you ever feel regret? She stared at me for seconds, seemingly seeking confirmation, just one final time. I understand it now. Saying nothing else, she simply walked away. The corridor lights shined bright. Li Zia suddenly sent a text message. Gu Yaoguang filed for divorce. I paused. Confirmed. Documents filed officially. I put the phone away. The marriage they publicly flaunted recently had already reached its end. Not surprising at all. A totally clean break was needed. That marriage became a massive liability. That same evening, the Ren Group convened an urgent internal integration meeting. Now watch closely. Sitting at the head table, I declared reevaluate every single Zhao Group project. Cut the failing sectors. Keep those core assets. The team quickly jotted down notes. This time, I was no longer standing silently behind the Zhao Group. I stood firmly in front. After our meeting, Li Zia asked President Ren should we discuss future arrangements with Miss Zhao. Absolutely no special treatment needed. Night fell. I returned to my office. The glass wall perfectly reflected the lights. The Zhao Group sign still hung high up, but their equity structure was fundamentally transformed. So he asked for a divorce. I glanced at the message, not replying instantly. Minutes later, she sent another one. It ended so incredibly fast. I replied with just one sentence. Read those terms very carefully before signing anything. The other side stayed totally silent for ages. Thank you. I set the phone down. There was simply nothing more to say. She went from absolute main character to mere bystander. Meanwhile, I never stopped being the one holding total control. None of this happened because of emotional feelings, just the pure result of choices made. 1 year later, the Zhao Group signboard remained, but the underlying equity structure was entirely different now. Ren Group became the controlling shareholder. The massive integration was finally complete. Project lines got perfectly streamlined down into 3 core profitable sectors. All toxic assets were completely purged. Personnel structures got fully adjusted. The financial books looked super clean. Sitting inside the chairman office, I signed off the final year-end audit report. The CFO stood beside me. This year, the Zhao Group achieved positive cash flow for the very first time. Profit margins stay low but healthy. We will maintain this pace. He left. My secretary walked in. Gu Yaoguang's bankruptcy and liquidation processes are complete. I did not stop writing. Personal assets totally frozen, affiliated companies completely dissolved. In just 1 single year, he went from rising star to absolute silence. The whole process went fast. Capital holds zero patience for losers. Around 3 p.m., I received a call from Zhao Liangxing. That number had not popped up in a really long time. Do you have time to meet the usual place? She asked softly. You and I both know this vibe, a nostalgic cafe from our youth. She was already seated by the window. Zero high heels, no flashy makeup, wearing just a simple white shirt, hair falling gracefully. She looked up, smiling faintly. Long time no see. I casually sat down. A waiter approached. She ordered black coffee. He signed. She whispered, I heard you were more decisive than I originally thought. For him, it meant cutting his losses. I used to think marriage was an ultimate trump card, a resource. She said this with absolutely zero emotion. The Zhao Group operates really well now. The entire board speaks extremely highly of you. That is the team's effort. You've grown much calmer. Just the position dictating it. I have officially left the management board. I am just a regular shareholder now. It feels nice." She smiled warmly. "Aren't you curious how I lived this past year? If you want to tell me, you can." She looked down, gently tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "When we first got divorced, it was incredibly hard to accept. Later, I realized our bond had been fractured for ages. Did you ever truly hate me? Emotions never solve real problems." She fell completely silent for a moment. "I always used to think you were way too rational. Do you still think so?" Now I realize I was just too impulsive. The cafe felt empty. Bright sunlight filtered through the large window onto our table. "If I had never taken that step back then, what would have happened to us?" she suddenly asked. "We'll never know." She chuckled. "No hypotheticals. You and I know hypotheticals are completely meaningless. Stick with me. We are diving into an epic mystery." He smiled cheerfully. "I realized nobody must pay for someone else's wild mistakes." She spoke slowly, looking emotional. He stayed quiet. "At first, I honestly believed I could grab both love and power. But I lost it all. I can finally read those tricky financial reports now. You taught me." He offered a faint, mysterious smile. "Experience taught you, not me." She took a quick sip of her coffee. "I came here today to apologize. Honestly, completely unnecessary. I owed you an explanation. That is ancient history." A few dramatic seconds passed before she finally asked, "Are you truly happy now?" "You feel that tension, right?" He stayed completely calm, thinking it over. Her eyes looked super conflicted. "Are you really not bitter at all?" "I am perfectly fine. Between us, there is zero drama, just the quiet, mysterious memories left by time. If the company ever needs me, I will gladly help. You really leave zero room for sweet emotions." For him, business and personal feelings stay totally separated. Stepping outside that little cafe, her iconic stiletto heels made absolutely no sound. Her footsteps felt incredibly light. He stood confidently at the door, watching her hop into a car. It drove away without her ever looking back. That evening, he cheerfully returned to his office. Beyond those massive windows sat the familiar glass wall. Over this crazy year, the entire city landscape completely transformed. Now watch closely. The Zhao Group became a Ren Group subsidiary, and Yu Ye Guang exited the stage. Zhao Langsing stepped back from the spotlight. Meanwhile, our strong guy sat right there in his office, losing absolutely nothing. A quick work message buzzed. He happily replied, tossing his phone aside. Outside that window, the mysterious night felt deep. The smooth glass reflected his face, showing zero emotion and absolutely no regrets. Back in the beginning, she freely chose to walk away. That was her choice. He boldly chose to pull his capital. That was his power. Every single outcome came from their decisive moves right then. Nobody ever has to suffer for another person's wild mistakes. Plus, nobody stands completely still forever just waiting for someone to finally turn around. He smoothly turned off the lights. The elevator doors slowly shut. So what do we learn here? In this wild game, there is no losing, only sharp, inspiring clarity.